The metal is a cold, indifferent skin. I am curled on the floor, trapped between the back seat and the abyss, buried under the weight of coats that exhale his scent. Sandalwood, tobacco, and something older, like the smell of oxidized coins at the bottom of a well. The engine pulses beneath my body, a rhythmic beat, an iron heart dictating the pace of my own breath. Short, stifled by the wool and the audacity of wanting to know too much. I am a secret, hidden in the belly of the beast. Outside, the world liquefies into blurs of mercury light that cut through the gaps in the glass. They turn the car's interior into a sequence of gray flashes and hungry shadows. These shadows reach out to touch my fingers, while the asphalt sings a continuous lament beneath the wheels. A single low note that vibrates in my teeth. It makes me wonder if the road still exists, or if we have been swallowed by a tunnel with no exit, only an infinite stretch of darkness and speed. His silence is a hammer. He drives with surgical precision. I hear no radio. I hear no rustle of a map or the sound of someone breathing in a hurry. I only hear the metallic click of the turn signal. Tick, tock, a clock counting down the seconds to an event I cannot yet name. The air is changing. It grows thick, electric, charged with a taste of ozone that burns the back of my throat. The perspective warps. The car's ceiling feels lower now, a press of fabric and wiring descending millimeter by millimeter. My hiding place is becoming a stomach of metal where time doesn't pass. It rots. A sharp turn. My body is thrown against the door. The smell of sandalwood vanishes instantly, replaced by something foul and damp, like freshly turned earth under the rain. He begins to hum. A melody without notes. A guttural, circular sound that shouldn't fit in the throat of the man I kissed this morning. It is the sound of something that has never seen the sun. The car slows down. Gravel crunches beneath the tires, teeth breaking, bones grinding. We stop. The engine dies, and the silence that remains is absolute. I hear the snap of the driver's door. The cold enters, a cold that doesn't come from the weather, but from the void. He steps out. The car rocks slightly, and then from the trunk. Something answers the silence with a dry, slow scratch. From the inside out. There is no turning back. The dark has eyes now. The scratch still vibrates at the base of my spine, an invisible nail clawing the inside of my skull. The silence that follows is an unbearable weight, a viscous substance filling the car, making every breath a Herculean effort. The cold that entered through the open door coils around my ankles like snakes of ice. He didn't close the door. I hear his footsteps fading into the gravel, but the rhythm is wrong. It isn't the walk of a man. It's a heavy glide, a dragging of feet that suggests an anatomy that has forgotten how to support its own weight. Croosh, crunch, crunch. The sound fades until it's just a whisper in the vastness outside, leaving me alone with whatever is lurking in the trunk. Scratch. Stop. Breathe. My perception shatters. I look through the gap between the front seats, and the darkness seems to have gained depth. An impossible geometry. The dashboard looks miles away, while the steering wheel glows with a sickly pallor, as if it were made of polished bone rather than plastic. The car begins to pulse. The metal walls contract and expand in an organic rhythm. This space is now a metallic lung, consuming me with every exhalation. I am disappearing. My hand, numb with dread, fumbles on the floor and finds something cold. Not metal. Something damp and porous. A smudge of shadow with texture. I pull my hand back, but the sensation of something stuck to my skin remains. An existential itch telling me that whatever he brought to this place has already begun to seep into me. Then, a whisper. It doesn't come from outside. It comes from under the seat. You came. You came. It's his voice, but distorted by 1,000 overlapping voices, a choir of souls trapped in a radio station out of tune. Panic is a scream that dies in my throat. I don't move. If I move, reality will finish tearing itself apart. The car rocks violently. He's back. I feel his weight sink into the driver's seat. The springs groan like a cry of pain. He doesn't close the door immediately. He just sits there, exhaling air that smells of stagnation and eternity. I feel his gaze, not through the mirror, but through the air itself, a physical pressure touching the nape of my neck with the tip of a non-existent finger. Darkness is a mirror, my love, he murmurs. His voice is now clear, terrible, sweet. If you look long enough, it starts to show you who you really are. Do you like what you see? A click. The interior light turns on. But the light isn't yellow. It is a deep, bruised red, the color of a bloody eclipse. Under this glow, the coats covering me no longer look like fabric. They look like skin. And the trunk. The trunk begins to open by itself, revealing not what is inside, but what is trying to crawl out of me. The red light does not illuminate, it reveals. It turns every surface into an open wound. Under this sickly scarlet glow, the leather of the front seat seems to pulse. A mass of veins and exposed nerves reacting to the heat of his presence. The trunk finishes rising with a hydraulic sigh that sounds like a final human breath. I wait for the obvious horror. I wait for the blood, the body, the material proof of his monstrosity. But what overflows from there is the unutterable. It is a sound of visual static, a thick gray mist that begins to snake through the car, crawling across the ceiling like smoke from a fire that burns the soul instead of the flesh. The mist touches my feet. It is cold as regret. Do not fear the form, he says. I feel his voice vibrating inside my own sternum. Fear the absence of it. He turns around. The movement is slow, geometric, as if his neck were made of rusted gears. I should see the face of the man I loved, the face I memorized with my fingertips on restless nights. But the red light erases his features. Where his eyes should be, there are only two absolute vacuums, holes in the tapestry of reality that suck in light and hope. I try to merge with the floor. I try to be dust. You always wanted to know what I did when the lights went out, didn't you? He reaches out. His fingers seem to lengthen. The joints bend at angles that anatomy rejects. You thought I kept lovers, or sins, or corpses. Such a small idea. Such a human idea. He touches the edge of the coat covering me. The fabric dissolves at his touch, turning into black ash that floats in the stagnant air. My perception shatters completely. The car no longer has doors. The windows show only a white void, an absolute nothingness where time has stopped to watch my fear. We are in a non-place, an in-between space where he is the only law. The mist that came from the trunk now takes shape around me. They are hands, hundreds of translucent hands emerging from the upholstery, holding me with terrifying delicacy. They don't want to hurt me. They want to absorb me. What is in the trunk, my love, is what is left of all those who tried to understand me, he whispers. The smell of sandalwood is now a foul scream of metaphysical decay. They became the silence I carry. They became the road I drive. I try to scream, but my voice is a line of static. My thoughts begin to bleed into his. I see memories that are not mine, fields of bones under violet skies. The man I knew was just a mask of flesh, worn by something that hungers for existence. He isn't killing me. He is undoing me. Thump. The sound comes from inside me now. The trunk is no longer back there. It is in my chest. And the door is open. The mist is now an extension of my own nerves. The red of the room fades to a visceral gray, the color of a brain exposed to the cold. I no longer feel the weight of the coats, for I no longer know where my skin ends and the fabric of this car begins. The ceiling has disappeared, revealing a starless sky, a dome of infinite granite that seems to descend upon us to crush us. And then he reveals himself. He takes his hand off the wheel, and the leather crumbles into black flakes under his touch. He doesn't move like a man turning his body. He unfolds. The skin of his face begins to ripple like the surface of a lake hit by invisible rain. The chin, the lips, everything I once knew is now liquid. His true face is not a face. It is a frequency. Where there should be symmetry, an architecture of shadows and cold light emerges. He is a succession of overlapping faces, 1,000 expressions of agony and ecstasy, flashing in fractions of a second, a kaleidoscope of identities he has consumed over eons. I see eyes glowing like dying embers in sockets that shouldn't exist. He is the unutterable made presence. "Look," he says. The voice is now a low thunder vibrating inside my skull. This is my true name. This is the face that the mirror fears to give back to me. He leans in. The space between us becomes an absolute vacuum. I feel the cold of 1,000 winters. His face now stabilizes into something that makes me want to cry and laugh simultaneously. He is a vacuum in the shape of a man, a gap in light so deep it hurts to look at. But in the center of that void, there is a glow, a single point of consciousness that recognizes me. It isn't hate, it isn't desire, it is a hunger for recognition. The translucent hands that emerge from the upholstery now lift me up, offering me to him like a profane host. I see my own image reflected in that vacuum, or rather, I see my image coming apart. My memories being sucked into that multiple face like smoke into a chimney. I am no longer the woman who got into that car out of jealousy. I am the witness to the inconceivable. He extends a long finger made of a substance that shines like black mercury. He touches my forehead. The contact isn't physical. It is a metaphysical invasion. For a millisecond, I see what he sees. The world outside is a fragile illusion, a watercolor painting that the rain is about to erase. And we are the rain. "You wanted to find out who I was," the choir of voices whispers. "Now, the question is, who will you be when I'm finished looking at you?" The car is now a skeleton of iron in the middle of a desert of glass. Reality has been stripped of its lies, and his face is the only real thing left. Reality is now a broken mirror, reflecting nothing but fragments of who I used to be. The touch of black mercury on my forehead was the final blow to my individuality. I feel my boundaries dissolve, like salt thrown into deep, freezing waters. There is no more me and him. There is only the expansion. I become the mist. I become the sound of gravel beneath non-existent tires. My consciousness begins to multiply, unfolding in 1,000 directions at once. I see through eyes that are in different cities, in different centuries, all screaming in a silent choir within that face that is now also mine. I am the woman who cried last week. I am the stranger he watched on the train platform. I am the pulse of the engine that brought us to this void. I am a new line in the architecture of his monstrosity. "Feel it," the choir whispers. My own voice is now part of the harmony. There is no more weight of choice, no more loneliness of the flesh. We are the hive of forgetfulness. The car disappears. The metal, the leather, and the smell of sandalwood evaporate. Only we remain, an entity composed of 1,000 faces, a kaleidoscope of memories and regrets spinning frantically in the center of an absolute nothingness. I see the moment I stepped into that car. I see my own hand hesitating on the door handle. I feel pity for that small, limited creature who thought love was something human. Love is not human. Love is total absorption. Memories of childhood, the taste of morning coffee, the fear of death. These are just dry petals being blown away. In their place comes the immensity. I feel what he feels. The eternal hunger. The need to be seen by someone strong enough to be consumed. I was chosen to be the next layer of his infinite skin. The multiple face stabilizes for a moment. I look into the void, and for the first time, it gives me a look of full recognition. I am no longer in the hiding place. I am no longer in the back seat. I am the mirror. I am the observer and the observed. The final chapter ends not with a scream, but with a collective sigh. We return to the world, or what people call the world, but not in a car. We return as the shadow moving in the corner of your eye, as the sudden chill in an empty room, as the obsession born from a chance encounter. The story ends where eternity begins. I am just one more face among so many, waiting for the next curious passenger to decide to hide in our shadows, to see what we really carry in the trunk of existence. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the shadows, subscribe to Velvet Vices for more forbidden stories. Don't let the fire fade out.